towards the end of it all, by this time, I'm 29 years old and been incarcerated, 25 plus times, 30, who knows, right? And I'm living in a motorhome with no running water, no heat, no electricity on the Indian reservation with nobody. I'm lonely, I'm isolated. I'm at the lowest point in my life, falling off. People kept dying around me. And it was really crazy because I was like, oh, that's not going to be me. When you're young and you're that age 21, you're 10 feet tall, you're bulletproof, nothing can touch you, right?
Welcome to the Living Louder podcast. My name is Portia Louder, and I'm meeting with Clay Josewski today. And he's really good friends with Manny, which has been on the podcast. So shout out to Manny.
Shout out to Manny.
That's right.
Definitely.
So thanks for coming. Clay does I think you have the coolest job. You work at the Other Side Academy, right?
Yeah.
But I want to hear more about you and your story and what ended up landing you at the Other Side Academy. So
yeah, it's a kind of a crazy turn of events, right? I never would have thought that I'd be at the Other Side Academy for 8 years. If he was going to tell me I was going to rehab for 8 years, I would have told you you're freaking crazy, right? But thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I tell my story quite a bit, but I think that if I look at my life and where it started to get off track was way before I ever started taking substances into my body. It was behaviors. And that's the thing at the Other Side Academy is we address behaviors. We don't talk about drugs. We don't talk about our past. We don't talk about where we've been, how we did it, who we did it with.
Right.
The same way that people build surface level relationships in jails and prisons, right? You get there, they're like, who do you know? What hood are you from? What women have you been with? How much dope did you get caught with? What are your charges, right? It's all BS. And it was really cool to go to the Other Side Academy and from day one, not have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
I was just equal with everybody else.
For people that don't know what the Other Side Academy is, what is it?
It's the coolest nonprofit on the face of the earth.
Right.
It's a 2.5-year life skills and vocational training school for men and women who have struggled with addiction, incarceration, homelessness. For me, it was all three. And so our average student's been arrested 26.5 times. I don't know who gets arrested half, but that's the number. 7 felonies, 5 misdemeanors. So for me, it was a lot more than that. But yeah, we're taking the person who's career criminal in a sense and giving them a shot at a long-term program with a lot of structure, a lot of discipline, really colorful, sometimes in your face. And we just tell people the truth. We don't coddle anybody. We don't enable them. We don't tell them everything's going to be okay and give them a hug and a nice little robe to put on. We're going to tell you the truth, and that's what works.
But truth is so powerful though. Like it's a natural law that it's very freeing and very powerful, and it's scary.
Yeah, and I think that comes with feedback too, and feedback's scary.
It is.
Because so many people are driven by ego and by pride. Right. And they don't want to let people tell them about themselves because they think they're this person. And that was hard for me too. I still struggle with feedback. We have a belief at the Other Side Academy. It's called Embrace Humility. It's my favorite one because the speed of which that anybody's going to change is determined by the amount of feedback you're willing to listen to from other people tell you about yourself. Right. Because the way that I see myself isn't the way that everybody else sees myself. And so being able
you can learn so much. But so I did a program for a year in prison, RDAP. It's the federal program. Yeah. And I remember they brought me in early. I'm really stubborn. So I ended up getting the maximum sentence. I could have made it 2 or 3 years and it ends up being 7. And they gave me RDAP, but I knew I was going to get out early. There's no way that I'm going to do all this time. My first 2 years, I actually had lawyers pro bono fighting to get me out. I was not going to stay and do the time. So they tried to put me in the program and I just walked right out. I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not prepared for this. You guys are all crazy. I'm watching them tell each other about themselves. Went back to the other unit for a year, did more walking, more praying, got the answer that my appeal wasn't going to work. Went back to him and said, I guess I'd like to do the program. And they're like, why should we let you in the program? And I said, because I want the time off. They're like, yeah, that's not getting you in the program. Wrong answer, right? Yeah. Wrong answer. They're like, a lot of people want the time off. And so then I did something. I was honest. I said, I think I need to be in this program because I'm stubborn. I fought my case and couldn't take ownership of it. And that's why I got the maximum sentence. And they're like, that'll get you in our program. Yeah. If you can just at least take a look at yourself this much. But even still, when I got in the program, I was like, these people are crazy. When you watch people give each other feedback, they made me a leader in that program. And I told everyone, I said, just don't screw up in front of me because I'm coming for you all. Like that's how it's going to be.
There you go. Yeah.
Straight about it.
Yeah. I think that's what, the reason why the Other Side Academy is so successful. And I think why RDAP has been so successful. I don't know if it's just in federal prisons or
it's in the feds.
But why it's so successful is that accountability piece.
Right.
And that's what's lacking tremendously
in traditional treatment.
In traditional treatment, in the streets, all these people get catch and release.
Right.
Like I have a sister-in-law who just went to jail for warrants that she's had since 2017. They released her on pretrial. Then she gets out a week later, she's caught in a stolen car. Mm-hmm. Now she's out on failed to file, right? And so we're just release. Right. And yet when I go to jail and I have all my dope on me, I have all my money on me,
right?
And I go to jail and they release me in 3 days, do you think I'm going to go get help? No, I'm sick. I'm going to go commit another crime to get the money that I need in order to get well, right? And so they think that they're helping, but in all actuality, it's creating worse of a problem by not holding people accountable.
So how do we deal with that? Because there's this people that have 20, 30-year prison sentences, right? And I have compassion for people. Like I've done time with people in the feds that have those sentences. And I'm like, really? Like you gave her 30 years on the crack law 20 years ago? At some point, there has to be an option for people. Is that option the Other Side Academy?
I would say, yeah. I know that the Other Side Academy is not for everybody, but I really think like for people that have served a lot of time, or I have a guy that just got there last week, 2 weeks ago, who just did 24 years straight. And you think about 24 years ago, the Nokia Razor was just coming out. There wasn't really technological advancement. To go in 24 years ago and get out, and now you have to order a cheeseburger off of a kiosk. Like,
right, it's overwhelming.
It's got to be overwhelming, sensory overload, like to the max.
Right.
And so the Other Side Academy would be that like slow integration back into the community, to just get that the micro community, preparing people for the macro community. That's really all it is. But yeah, it's not for everybody. I mean, I tried so many different programs in life. I did drug court. I won't name them all, but to no avail, they didn't work, and partially because I wasn't willing to change. And yeah, I just remember going to program after program after program, and it'd be like a week or 3 months after that, I'm back to what I know, looking for happiness in the same places that I lost it.
Right.
Going back to social media, going back to the people, the places, the playgrounds. And every single time I'm just like, how do I get myself out of this? I'd look at people. So I'd go to AA and I'd get into that. And I'd be the guy that's like, anybody in their first meeting or in their first 30 days for like 9 months straight. I'm like,
I got 10 of those chips.
I got like 90 of them by this point. And these guys that are picking up hard metal coins and they have a year or longer. And I'm like, how do they do it? I look at them like they're unicorns.
Yeah.
And to think today, like last month, I just got 8 years clean, right?
Cool.
And I would have never thought that. I would have never thought I could own my own car, have my own house, have 2 cats, a beautiful wife, right? Have success. Just never thought it was possible.
So for me, prison worked. I've thought about this a lot. Like I had a friend on the podcast recently that I did time with that grew up, her parents were both heroin addicts. She grew up homeless, lived in Pioneer Park sometimes with her parents. From Utah, I met her in Minnesota. She did 7 years and I did close to 5. She did 7 on 10 because some of the laws changed. And I said, prison worked for both of us. We walked through our pain, we suffered, we did the work. But I wonder if I could have done it at the Other Side Academy for 3. And she said, I wouldn't have. It wouldn't have worked for me. She said, I needed the time. She goes, cognitively, I needed the time. Now, I do know some people stay longer than 3 years. Mm-hmm. But what I wonder is, I live here. I was super entitled, super privileged. My husband was right there by me. I had family that would have dropped things off. And I would have been so close to my kids. I wonder if I would have, it took me 2.5 years in prison to embrace prison. Yeah. Like how long would it have taken me? Could you have broke me down? I know you would have done a pretty good job of trying.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Would it have worked? Because I would have loved to do 3 instead of 5 and have what you guys have, which is freedom.
Did you write us before you went to prison?
No.
Did you think about it?
No, I didn't even know that. That's the problem. People here, there's options. You got somebody with a prison sentence. Yeah. You don't take people out of state, do you?
No, it just depends. We do.
Okay.
And it depends. If we can get an interstate compact or the judge to work on their behalf and put them on just like the court probation with the judge,
right?
So that they answer to them. And so we don't have to put them on AP&P where they have to get an interstate compact and things get sticky that way.
It's complicated.
Yeah, because if you don't have anybody out here and you leave from the Other Side Academy, then you're just homeless in Salt Lake and now you're Salt Lake's problem to the justice system, right? So they don't want that.
But if you're local, if you live in Utah, I was a Fed but if I would have even known it was an option, I would have written and I would have asked to do it. I don't know if I'd have been successful. It took I don't know. Like I walked into prison using. I've been sober since the day I walked in. So first, I mean, I would have had to detox. Which you guys send someone to detox, or do you don't detox them? Then?
Yeah, we send them to detox. I think in a perfect world, eventually we'd like to have our own detox, like a two bed detox, something simple.
A couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I think and this is just me getting kind of off track, but I think the problem today is that, and I keep talking about my family, but I have a brother-in-law who was on methadone for 5 years. Like, what is that?
He's on Suboxone for 14.
What are we doing?
It's so bad. It's
what
terrible.
are we doing?
It's so sad. It's enslavement, man.
Yeah, and I think that it's great for a short-term thing. It's a great fix to get off, wean off. But when you're on it for long periods of time, like, what are we doing? Like right now, I went and interviewed a guy in one of the correctional community centers, right? He was an alcoholic, got out after doing 2 years, and they put him on Suboxone.
Suboxone.
For what?
No, they put me on Suboxone. I had a 7-pill-a-day habit, and they put me on 3 8-tabs, 24 mils.
Wow.
This was like 20 years ago before they knew. So I was
just zonked.
Yeah, I was a goner.
Yeah.
And I weaned myself down. But when I finally came off that, I literally suffered for like 3 months. I didn't sleep. There's nothing. I hate Suboxone because of my own experience. And I see people on it, and I have so much compassion for them. Like I talk to guys every day that they're like, I'm on Suboxone and I want to get off, but I don't know if I can. I'm like, we did you dirty till they send you out of prison with Suboxone. They walk in without an addiction and they come out with one, you know?
Yeah.
It's sad.
And I think they think that we're like reducing the overdose rate, which in some degree we are, in some capacity we are, but they're just getting addicted to you're substituting one drug for the next. And what's the difference between me taking my money, going down to North Temple and picking up from, somebody down there, and now instead of going and giving your money down there, you're going to give it to the government.
Right.
That's what it seems like, at least, right?
Right.
So anyway, we're off track.
Yeah. What was your life like when you were a kid? Did you grow up in Salt Lake?
Yeah, I grew up in Salt Lake. I grew up in Murray pretty much my whole life. My parents moved here when I was 2 years old, and I don't come from a rich family, very middle to lower class. I'd say more on the lower class end, right? We really struggled to make ends meet. And I remember that, both my parents smoked, they drank, but they held it together. They were just blue collar people, right? I just remember early on, like I dealt with some sexual trauma. We lived in an apartment complex, and one of the neighbor kids that I would have to go and get babysat by. It was just really like and I didn't realize like how much that affected me later on, right? Until at the Other Side Academy, we do a junior retreat where they walk you through your story front to back. It's like a 3 or 4 hour ordeal where, and there's a lot of tears, and I got to really take ownership for that and let some of the baggage go that I had been holding on to for so long. And now I get to use it in a way where, I hear so many other stories and walk other guys through their story that it's not rare.
I know.
And when people can really be vulnerable about it, it opens the door for other people to be vulnerable. And so I use my story to be able to do that for other guys. And I use it as a strength today. But like I was saying, behaviors, right? And I go to junior highs and high schools and stuff, and I talk to these kids, and it's like, I was a great kid. I got good grades. In high school, I was on the honor roll. I played sports. I played basketball, football. I ran track. I played tennis. I was on the student body office. I was president of the Key Club. But at the same time, I was drinking. I was smoking. I was stealing Adderall from my friends, medicine cabinets. I was taking prescriptions. I didn't even know what they were.
Yeah.
And that's just who I was. I was a very duplicitous person.
Yeah, me too. But
long before that, I just remember like my mom, I'd get off the school bus and my mom would be like, "Hey, honey, how was school?" And I'd be like, "Oh, so good, Mom, thanks." And she'd be like, "You have any homework?" And I'd be like, "No." Because I want to ride my bike.
Right.
I want to watch the Jazz games. I want to like watch wrestling. Like I wanted to do what I wanted to do in that moment. And it starts right there.
Right.
So I start lying. Fast forward, me and my dad collected basketball cards. We would go to this card shop every Friday, and the card shop was on the route of the school bus, and it was about a mile from my house. So I stopped off the school bus myself and went in there by myself. And I went in there, and there was this new card that just got put in the case, and it was a Vince Carter rookie card. He had just won the dunk contest, and it was like the holy grail, right? Like time stopped in that moment. There's like rays coming off of it. I'm like, oh, he let me hold it. And then all of a sudden the phone rings in the back of the card shop. And so he goes in the back of the card shop to answer the phone, and I put that card in my pocket and I ran out of the store, right? And I never got caught for it.
Oh.
And so it starts like there. Yeah. I start like getting addicted to being a very duplicitous person. As long as I was doing what my coaches and my teachers and my parents and everybody that had any type of authority over me wanted me to do, then I could be this person on the side. And so I appeased everybody. And, I think the cat really started to come out of the bag after high school. In high school, I won a cooking contest. I fell in love with cooking. And I got to go on the news and show my recipe on one of those little segments.
That's cool.
And it was really, really cool. It was an orange chocolate dream bar that I made.
That's right.
And it was awesome. And I made that dream bar. And from there, I was like, well, maybe I could go to culinary school and maybe I could be a chef, right?
Right.
So I went to culinary school. I graduated with honors from my class, and went to Las Vegas. By the time I graduated, yeah, you're right. And I just got back from there. I go back to reminisce. No, I'm just kidding. But I went to Vegas. By this time, I had already started doing cocaine on a regular basis. I was doing Oxy 80s and the whole nine, right? And I get to Vegas, and that's really kind of where the wheels started to fall off. I had no authority anymore, and it was just me left to my own devices. My mom worked at Black Angus Steakhouse as a waitress and really struggled. By this time, because there's a 17-year age gap between my mom and my dad. So my dad is like 65 at this time. He did construction his whole life and didn't have a 401k. So he's kind of out of the workforce because he's older, can't do it anymore. My mom's the sole provider, but yet she's wanting to put me through culinary school. She wants to give me a better future than they had. And I just remember the shame of like having to come home and face my mom and my dad and just letting them know like, hey, I couldn't make it. I couldn't do it. Was like unbearable. So I pushed through, and I went to school coked out all the time. And I went to school like really pushed through a lot of stuff. I started with 33 kids in my culinary class at Le Cordon Bleu, and only 8 of us graduated. So it gives you an idea. I was completely strung out, and I don't know how I graduated, but I graduated. And when I came back from culinary school in 2008, I graduated. 2009, I'd say, I think every drug addict, every person with a past has a year that they look back on and they're like, that was the worst year of my life. 2009 was that for me. My parents split up in April of 2009, got a divorce. And that doesn't seem traumatic for some people,
traumatic,
but it sucked for me.
Yeah, because they
were together my whole life.
Same with me.
Yeah. So your parents split up too?
Yeah. They're kind of working through that. But yeah, that was really, you wouldn't think. And it was long after I was out of the house, but it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they split up. I start drinking more. I think by this time, like people really started to notice a difference. I'm kind of paranoid. I'm still working for a catering company. And by this time I'd cooked for a lot of really cool people. I met Jerry Seinfeld at a Bravo Hall, cooked for him. I met Al Green, walked into his tour bus and met Al Green, Joan Osborne. I cooked for some really cool people, and I'm still really good at it. I don't use it anymore, but I'm a really good cook. I think that my parents and everybody around me, they started to get more distant, and nobody really called me on my crap. Even my mom started to drink more throughout the divorce, and we found ourselves together drinking in bars together, but I started smoking crack. I started doing other drugs like that. I told myself I would never do meth or heroin, but I tried meth for the first time while I was in Vegas. So, in September of 2009, I get my first DUI, leaving my buddy's house. The Raiders lost Monday Night Football. I'm pissed off. I drink the rest of this fifth of vodka, and I drive home, and I get pulled over, and I have paraphernalia everywhere. And so that's the first conversation. The first time I get arrested, the first conversation, my parents are like, what's going on? Like, this can't happen again. They paid to get my car out of impound. The fees are outrageous. I'm like, yeah, it's never going to happen again. I don't know how, why, you know what I mean? But fast forward 2 weeks later, I get another DUI. I go to jail. Car is gone for good now. And by this time, I'm doing heroin intravenously. Graduated. Exactly. Graduated. And the heroin was strong at the time. And I just remember the circle of like accomplices. I don't want to call them friends because they weren't, but the accomplices that were around me, people kept falling off. People kept dying around me. And it was really crazy because I was like, oh, that's not going to be me. When you're young and you're that age 21, you're 10 feet tall, you're bulletproof, nothing can touch you, right? And that's how I felt. I'm like, that's not going to be me. I'm responsible about it. I won't do too much, right? And I was about to go to court for the first time and enter into drug court for the 2 DUIs. And I knew that I needed to get help because I thought that I was going to go to jail for a little bit of time before I got into drug court. And so I was hanging out with, it was these 3 siblings, Ashley, Zach, and Tyler. And me and Ashley had made a pact. We're like, look, I want to get clean. I want to get sober. I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, my life's kind of unmanageable. I'm starting to realize that. Like, in high school, I forgot to tell you, I got voted loudest personality, most likely to succeed. But yet I haven't lived up to it.
Right.
If anything, I'm like the least person to succeed at this point.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of guilt and a lot of shame in that. Yeah. And me and Ashley make this pact. We're like, look, like I want to get clean. There's an AA meeting at the Al-Anon right down the street in Murray, right?
Right.
We'll go tomorrow at 4:30. There's a meeting tomorrow. And we're like, well, let's do one last hoorah. And so I give her $20. I go home, I do my stuff. I come back the next day to pick her up, and it's like 4:00 in the afternoon. Their house was kind of the house that you could just walk into, and Tyler's still asleep in the basement, right? Long night. And I walk up the stairs to Ashley's room and around the corner, and I'm knocking on the door, and the door is locked. But she had a beagle in the room, and his name was Gus. And I could hear him barking, and he's barking, and he's barking. And I knew that something wasn't right. And so instinctively, I just kicked the door in. And I found her dead from a heroin overdose. Completely purple. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen up until that point. And I ran out of the house, and I'm running down the street, and I'm just like screaming, and I didn't know what to do. And I called the ambulance. I called her mom, and the sound of her mom on the other end of the phone that I heard for the first time it was unlike any scream I've ever had to. And I remember it's like etched into my heart, right? When I told her that her daughter was dead. And that should have been an eye opener. Mm-hmm. And I didn't take it as such. I continued. And so Zach and Tyler get word. 3 weeks later, I find Zach dead from a heroin overdose too. And so I lost two of my friends. Tyler becomes an only child. Tyler actually passed away this last February from an overdose. And he was on, what's that show called? Intervention.
Oh, damn.
He was on Intervention. And so all three siblings are dead now.
His poor parents.
It's crazy. The dad, I can't even imagine. He's a Vietnam vet, just a good guy, right? And so instead of using that as an eye-opening experience, I used it to be a victim for the next 10 years, right?
Wow. It's a long time.
Yeah. And, I try to change my address. No matter where you go, there you are, right?
Right.
There's the old concept of that. Oh, my dad plucks me from Salt Lake. After the divorce, he moved to a little town and actually got back with my half-brother's mom. So he went back to his ex-wife, which was already kind of a toxic thing anyway, because she didn't want me there, but my dad was like trying to do the next right thing to like try and help me, give me a hand up. Like, it's crazy when I see it all the time at the academy, right? How much people enable, because they just don't know any different. Right. They think, well, if I get him this apartment, maybe they'll change.
Right.
If I get him this car, or if I drive him to work every day, maybe they'll change.
Yeah.
But we don't appreciate that.
No, it just makes things worse. Yeah. Honestly, it just slows down the bottom.
Yeah. And so my dad moved me out there. I worked for a reclamation company. So we helped the Bureau of Land Management get these oil sites back to what they looked like before. And I'd have spurts of good. This time I had about 4 months of doing good. It was the most money I'd ever made, right?
Were you clean?
I was clean for those 4 months. But I ran into somebody on the oil field that was smoking meth, and that's really where everything changed. I lost my job on the oil field because I couldn't pass a piss test, and I just became the type of person that if your stuff wasn't bolted down, locked up, your doors were unlocked, I was running in your house and I was taking everything that I could. And towards the end of it all, by this time I'm 29 years old and been incarcerated, 25 plus times, 30, who knows, right? And I'm living in a motorhome with no running water, no heat, no electricity on the Indian reservation with nobody. Like, I'm lonely, I'm isolated. I'm at like the lowest point in my life. And my dad's calling me and he's like, hey son, the cops are looking for you. They were just at my house. I don't know what you did. I don't want to know, but cops are looking for you. So my accomplices at the time too are calling me. They're like, dude, the cops are just at my house. Like, they're looking for you. And I was kind of tied in with these two people that we were like in this antique theft ring. So we would go to Wyoming. It was really across the 3 counties in Utah. I never really got charged outside of that, but it was Duchesne, Roosevelt, and Vernal, and that's those small towns, right? And I knew that when I got caught, I was in deep crap, right? And I didn't want to go to prison. Yeah. I think I was scared at that point to go to prison. Yeah. I'd been to jail a bunch of times, and just the stories you hear and the people and like, I didn't know if I'd be the type of guy that goes in there and tries to put in work for the wrong cause like I had for so long anyway. Right. And then I get all these dumb face tattoos and I'm like, then I really fit the mold of a rapper, right?
Big spider.
That's what they would have called me too, big spider.
Right, yeah, for sure.
So, I wrote a suicide note at that time, completely lonely. just broken. It's crazy to tell this story because I just feel like I'm telling it about somebody else because my life's so full today.
Right.
I never could envision that I could dig myself out of it and create a life of success. And I wrote a suicide note. I had a handgun on me. And I'd never been spiritual living in Salt Lake City. I never, as crazy as that sounds, never went to church, never did any of that.
Your parents weren't LDS or any religion.
Gotcha. No, my grandma was Lutheran, like this St. Christopher that I wear was my dad's, right? And he was never really religious, but my grandma gave it to him. And so now I wear it. I just remember looking up at the sky and I was like, just like that day with the card where everything stopped and it was in slow motion. I was just like, look, if there's a God, show me, because I don't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
And it's weird how God shows up for people, right?
In a uniform.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, all right, Muff, I got you. I got you, dude. So for me, I look at God as an acronym. He's just a good old dude. That's my interpretation. Yeah, so that good old dude looked out for me that day.
Yeah.
I'm in the back of a cop car 3 hours later, and I'm on my way to the Duchesne County Jail, and I'm cursing. I'm like, there's no God. I'm mad. I'm pissed, right?
Yeah.
And as I start to thaw out and I start to get my bearings about me, I'm looking at doing a bunch of time in prison. Had a bunch of burglary charges. They raided my motorhome, so possession, all the stuff that comes along with it. And I start going to these like LDS 12-step meetings and Bible study and all that stuff, anything to get out of this section, right? But yeah, I still was like curious because I had this like moment where I was like, what if that was my God shot?
Yeah.
What if in that moment, like, he's like, all right, I got you. Because somebody was talking, I think, in the section about how God shows up for you in ways that you'll never, like you least would expect it or like you least would want it. So if you pray for patience, he's going to give you the most annoying person you have to work with, right? Like,
do that.
Yeah. So you got to be careful what you pray for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, I started to think about that and I was like, wow, that's crazy. So I go to these Bible studies and things like that. And at the time, like Governor Herbert, he put into motion like programs before prison, right? Remember the whole concept of that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I can go to a program and for the umpteenth time.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm going to this LDS 12-step meeting, and there was a couple by the name of Dumas. That's what I remember him as, this couple Dumas. I wish I could see him today because
I will find them for you because I'm really dialed into that.
Really?
Dumas. Yeah.
So they were on a mission together, and they would go into the Duchesne County Jail back in 2017. So that's when I was in there. So this was in between July and November that they were in there. And I told them, I was like, look, I really want to go to a program. I think I'm ready. I'm interested in changing my life, but still on the back burner was like, I don't want to go to prison. Right. And then so I'm being manipulative in a way. Sure. And they're like, well, there's this new program out in Salt Lake called Victory Outreach. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, it's a biblical faith-based program. It just started. It's brand new. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, can you get me the info? So they give me the info. His name was Pastor Luis Limon. I call him up and we had a phone interview over the phone. And he's like, yeah, I'll accept you. I'll buy you a Greyhound ticket when you get out of jail. And just let the judge know that we've accepted you, which was weird because nowadays you have to have a letter and all sorts of stuff and work with the attorney. And I went to court that day. By this time, my 2 other co-defendants had already went to prison.
Okay.
And so I'm like, man, I'm going to go to prison. Right. I'm like, it's just in the cards, right? And Judge Chiara, which I had a really cool interaction after, remind me to tell you about that at the Other Side Academy.
Yeah.
Judge Chiara was like, I don't know why I'm going to do this, but I'm going to give you an opportunity. The prosecutor gets up. They're like, this guy has an extensive past. He's been arrested yada, yada times. He's just a career criminal. You know how prosecutors are. They just, oh gosh.
They say the meanest things.
Yeah, they're awful.
What are you talking about?
Like, dude. Like you just totally threw 50s all over that. Like, you know what I mean? But it's true. I know. But yeah, it sounds so bad when you lay it all out.
I was like, who are they talking about?
Yeah.
Where is she? It's not me.
Yeah. Right. And so he's like, I'm going to let you go to that program. And I just remember feeling so grateful. Yeah. But yet not grateful enough to get out and do the right thing because I got out and I went and got high before I got on the Greyhound bus. And so I showed up to the program and I was high. It was Thanksgiving Day. It was a trip. I got there and they're like, all right, man, we're going to go get you some food. You hungry? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, all right, well, we got to pray you in. It was a trip. And I'm like, what? Like, jump me in and pray me in.
Jump me in?
That was it. So they put hands on me and there's guys talking in tongues. There's guys like praying for me. They're like, all right, man, you're in. Welcome to Victory Outreach. The crazy part was that every day we'd have to wake up really early at like 4:30 in the morning and we would have to pray. But like I said, I've never been spiritual. So I wasn't accustomed to praying.
Sure.
So I'm praying. I'm like, I just want to be successful. I just want to be successful. Please just use me as a vessel to make me successful.
Right.
But my intentions are all effed up because I'm praying for cars, clothes, shoes, tattoos, money, house. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so I think God showed up that day for me too, because he's like, all right, I got you, dude. Good old dude showed up again. It was 3 days before Christmas, in 2017. I'd been there for about 30 days at this point. And the Salt Lake Police Department comes in and they displace everybody. They're like, hey, you don't have proper licensing. You can't have people here. And so the cops are like, you guys got to go. And
I'm like, jumping people in.
Yeah, or praying them in. They probably still do it. I would imagine they do it. And it felt good, right? It felt like, hey, welcome to the brotherhood. Welcome to the like camaraderie, right?
Right.
But the cops when they came into this place, they're like, all right, you guys got to go. And I'm like, go where?
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do? And so I go, I'm on the streets. There was somebody that was in recovery that was close to me that let me stay with her for a few days, but it felt weird because I was just staying on their couch, right?
Yeah.
And they had kids and it was just really a weird thing, right? And so I remember that the fellowship hall was right down the street. And so when I did that show at Fellowship Hall in the summer this last time, it was just surreal to be back there because I'm grateful for places like that because I got out of the cold. I was able to stay there until they closed every night. And I was just really seeking out like a program, but yet also trying to seek out like, why am I here? Yeah. What's my purpose? Help me figure this out. Cause right now I don't have really anybody. I don't have anything. It's wild to think about. And I kept trying to do easy. At this time, when I'm trying to get into a program, it's not like today. Like you can show up to a program and they'll put you on Medicaid that day and put you into the program.
Right.
That wasn't around then. You either had to have the fancy Blue Cross Blue Shield stuff. You had to have like Aetna or whatever it was, right? Like you had to have that name brand stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that. And I didn't have the money. My parents didn't have the money. And so I was trying to get scholarshiped into like 7th Street and these kind of easier programs, and doors kept closing in my face. And I think it was the good old dude again. Like, no, dude, you're not going to do that. The friend that I was staying with had told me about the Other Side Academy, but I was like, no, 2 years, that's crazy. I don't need 2 years because the concept in recovery is so askew that we feel like we can get what we need in that 30 or 60 or 90 days.
That's just so like, unrealistic.
Why would they be there if it didn't work in 30 or 60 or 90 days, right?
Right.
And what I had to
took you 30 years to get here and you're going to get out in 30 days.
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. I had so much bad behavior and things that I needed to fix and unwind and really learn about in order to get to where I wanted to be. So I remember I thought that the Other Side Academy, I made the commitment to go to the Other Side Academy on Christmas Eve. And my mom let me stay there on Christmas Eve. This was the first time my mom had let me stay there because tough love was the thing that saved my life, right? And I would encourage every parent, if they're listening to this, tough love saves lives. Like, don't give them anything. Don't give them a place to live, a place to shower, a place to eat. I know that sounds cruel. I know that sounds messed up. Cut them completely off.
Right.
If you want them to get the help that they need, they're never going to get it as long as they can keep pulling on little strings from you. And I tell parents that all the time. And that's probably the hardest thing for people to do because LDS people, as good as they are, they're enablers. They enable.
And it's difficult because I used meth when I was in my 20s, and I have my parents on the podcast, and I'm like, the neighbors said, kick her out and take the kids. And my parents chose to keep me, and I ended up getting sober. Like for me, I loved my kids, and my heart broke that my dad, what worked though was my dad gave up on me. Like that was the best thing he did. He's like, I went up to him and I said, Dad, I need help. I'm just so tired. And he goes, go talk to somebody else. I tried everything. He's like, I pretty much figure you're going to die at this point. So that was his cutoff. He's like, go ahead and live in the basement, but I'm done trying to help you. And that saved my life.
Oh, okay.
So there's something,
Yeah.
Because I did. I was so desperate. I felt the power, my dad withdraw. I felt that power withdraw, and I needed it because he was empowering me. Yeah. Like everyone does, right? They think they're saving you, but they're empowering it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So your mom had done I'm done. I'm done helping.
Yeah, but it was kind of a really cool Christmas Eve because she let me come back, and she had bought me a few gifts, which was kind of cool. It was like the first Christmas in a long time that I'd gotten a gift or celebrated, and so I just remember I thought that like, you know how traditional treatments are. It's like, oh, we have admissions would be closed.
Right.
And so I waited it out. And the day after Christmas of 2017, so the 26th of this month, I showed up at the Other Side Academy, and it's single-handedly the greatest decision I've ever made in my entire life, right? All those times that I was praying for success, I prayed for the wrong success.
Right.
The Other Side Academy gave me the success that I really needed. And the good old dude gave me success that I really needed. It's the relationships that I have today. It's how I feel inside. It's what I have in between my ears still. Thank God for the sanity that I have, because, you know, there's people out there yelling at nobody in the streets, right? And it's sad. And I'm like, wow, why didn't I end up like that?
Right.
But now I'm at the Other Side Academy, and I get to help other people live their purpose, find themselves, figure out their worth, figure out what they're capable of, harness the good qualities. Let's get rid of all the negative stuff. And I think when I first got to the Other Side Academy, I was like, man, these guys are trying to turn me into a robot, dude.
Right.
Like,
they want me to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
not drink the Kool-Aid.
Bath water, whatever it was. I was like, what is this? I hated it because it went against everything that I bought into. You know, we were telling on people. And I'm like, we're holding people accountable. They're like, you've been doing it for all the wrong reasons. If the cops are outside your dope dealer's house, you're going to call them and let them know, right? And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, if your dope is bunked, you're gonna call your dope dealer and let him know, right? And I'm like, yep. They're all, so you've been doing it for all the wrong reasons. Now it's time to do it for the right reasons. And it's fascinating, right?
It is fascinating.
Like, we can do it with, so say if I was at a barbecue with you and your kid runs out in the street and I'm like, whoa, dude, what are you doing? Like, stop.
Right.
And I grab him by the hand and I'm like, dude, you can't be doing that stuff. I bring him into you and I'm like, Portia, your kid just damn near got hit. Right. And you're like, I can't do that. And so we can hold kids accountable at that age, but we can't hold grown adults accountable. Why?
Right.
Ego, pride.
Right.
And so
it's the hardest thing. And it's the most powerful thing. So for me, when I was in my program, nobody dared to hold me accountable. And I was talking to Manny about this the other day. There was only one girl. Her name was Sangria. Shout out Sangria. She was hardcore gang. And she was mad at me because when I got into the program, all of a sudden you start feeling really guilty over the littlest things, right? Mm-hmm. So she was a phase up on me, and I come into the program, I make the decision that I'm just going to do it because I'm not like a half and half. I'm either all in or I'm just not going to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm all in. And then she comes down and, what do you love more than anything? Vegetables in prison. She goes, I got some stolen vegetables from the kitchen louder. Let's go down and eat them. And part of it was like peer pressure because I didn't want to be the fool, right? I'm the younger phase. Mm-hmm. She's like pretty tough, and I know her from the compound. And she's like, just you and I, nobody will know. So we go down, we eat the vegetables. I feel like I just smoked crack. I feel so guilty. Yeah. I ate a carrot, celery. So I go back to the unit and I'm like pacing around like, you know, and I'm thinking, I got to do something about this. So I write a cop out on myself or a pull up and I submit it. And the next morning I get up in the room and I just say, I ate stolen vegetables from the kitchen. And the whole place gasps like loud. Because they're like, oh. And the main counselor, he goes, I know you wouldn't have done this alone, Miss Louder. Like, he's like, we're not going to give you the heat because we know you're just not going to do that, right? And he's like, you got to tell us who else was doing it with you. And I'm just standing there. I stood there for about probably 3 minutes.
Felt like 20.
I just sit there. And finally, and she's just mad dogging me from the crowd, you know? And finally she comes and everybody is just like, who was it? And I just stood there. And then finally she walks up to the front of the room, stands there, and she goes, it was me. And then they gave her the feedback of like, you have now brought Miss Louder in on a conspiracy. Like, they should have held me accountable, right?
Yeah.
2 months later, that girl called me out like I've never been. Because you know how sometimes you get back at people, right? Yeah. So she just, and what she said to me was probably one of the most important things I ever heard. It was hard to hear. Like the whole room, she's like, you are a hustler. You were born a hustler. You were a hustler on the street. You act all good and nothing. You are nothing but a scammer like the rest of us, probably worse than us. Mm. And I was just sitting there going, oh, she knows me. She knows. How did she know, you know? And all the girls in the program came up after and they're just like, that was terrible. And I was just, don't talk to me about it. Took me 2 days and I went to her and I said, thank you. She goes, I was a little harsh. I didn't have to be that harsh. And I was like, thank you. And it was probably the most important thing for me here. I needed somebody to hold me accountable because the girls wouldn't do it. Yeah. You know?
That reminds me of every interaction. We have groups at the Other Side Academy and that's how they are.
Yeah.
It's exactly how they are. But what's funny is we call it getting dirty, right? When you got dirty with her and you ate those vegetables, right?
Yeah.
If you would have held on to that, you would have never been able to hold her accountable. You would have struggled to hold other people accountable.
Code, man.
Yeah, because you're filled and it's really put a damper on your conscience.
Right.
And everybody hates a hypocrite, right?
Right.
So if you're doing something and then you call somebody else out on it, you're not going to do it.
No, I learned early on, I was like, the way that I'm going to do this program is I am going to hold myself accountable and I'm going to walk the line. There's no other way that I can do it, or else I'll just be a fraud. And I've been a fraud my whole life. So I can't do it. I can't do this program and pretend. I got to be real with it. And the problem was there's a lot of people in there that were trying to take the program, like doing sneaky things on the side. And I'm calling them out, things that go on the weekend. And so then they make me a leader in the program, and girls would scatter when I'd walk through the unit.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So
yeah,
life-changing for me. I learned things I waited my whole life to learn. It really was.
Yeah, we always say that too. Like anybody, even the normal Melvin Milquetoast, right?
Yeah.
That just goes to church every Sunday and is in the bishopric. If he came to the Other Side Academy and stayed for 2.5 years, he would be better for coming.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of parallels between the 10 Commandments and our 12 beliefs, and just teaching people how to be just good people, inside and out, and being the same person in every single room that you walk into, because that's what I lacked.
Right.
I was such a chameleon, depending on where I went, who I was with, talking about the duplicitous thing, right?
Right.
I just, and I was never really my authentic self. Today I get to be that.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it. So
how long were you in the program?
4.5 years as a student. So I stayed, at the time it was a 2-year program, to beat what I had envisioned as a 20-year prison sentence. It wasn't nearly probably that, but that's how I had to perceive it in order to be
willing to go
stay.
There.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the whole first year that I was there, I hated it. Yeah. I did everything they asked me not to do. I was doing it. So I was the guy that was eating vegetables. I was the guy that was talking about my charges. I was talking about the women.
Yeah.
I was talking about where I was from, what I did, who I did it with, all the things that they ask us not to do. Mm-hmm. And the really beautiful part about the Other Side Academy is from the day that you get there, you don't talk about any of that. You don't talk about tattoos. You don't talk about any of that.
Right.
And so it puts big time dope dealers, gun runners, gang
all
members.
on the same level, man.
And with, gutter junkies, Walmart thieves, they're all the same.
Right.
And for me, it was an eye-opening experience that I could really just be who I needed to be. And it gave me that safe platform to do so. Because if people were talking crap about what I was doing, they were getting pulled up. Hey man, don't talk about people behind their back, right?
Right.
And I was doing that for others, right?
Right.
So the first year though, I didn't do it right. And I probably kind of regret that. But I think things started to change. Even though I wasn't doing everything tip top, I was losing a lot of my free time.
Yeah.
And we have hours consequences at the Other Side Academy, right? So every time that I would talk about my past, anytime I would do anything, we have what's called a cleanup. And there was a crushed can of soda that was found inside the textiles in the basement bathroom. And Dave came in, he's, oh, who's that? What is this? Like, you guys, the way you do your stays, the way y'all do your live, and just blasted the house, right? And after the morning meeting, my friend Andrew at the time, he's still really a good friend with me. We grew up in the house. He's still there. He's a staff member. He went to the front desk and he's like, hey, I need to clean up, which means he had a whole bunch of dirt like I did. And he gets a yellow pad and he starts writing everything down. And the bench was facing kind of the kitchen hallway area. And I worked in the kitchen at that time. That was my job. And I kept trying to peek out and look. And I'm trying to make eye contact, hey, we're good, right? Yeah. Homeboy, you got me, right? You're not going to say anything. Just trying to give the eyes and the nod. And he would, and every time he'd look at me, he just put his head down.
And you're like, okay.
And I'm like, wow. But I didn't say anything. I didn't have the balls to go and say, hey, I have some stuff too. So kudos to him.
Good for
right.
him.
And so, about 5 p.m., this was at 7:15 in the morning, about 5 p.m., I get blasted right in the middle of the floor.
Right.
How are you going to sit here all day and see him on the bench and you know damn well you have stuff to clean up on? Go get a yellow pad, sit on the bench, clean your slate. And I was so mad. Yeah. I was mad. I wasn't liberated. And I cleaned everything up.
Right.
And I was so mad at him.
Right.
Because I was still stuck in this code. I was still stuck in this mindset of how are you going to tell on me, dude?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's always best to tell on yourself, man. I watched enough groups to know that.
Yeah. Honesty is the best policy. And it always is lesser when you're able to do that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I just remember the next day I was raging. He came into the kitchen where I was working to get his breakfast and I was so mad. You could see the steam coming out of my ears. And he walks up to me and he goes, I just want real friends in my life. And he's all, I had to do what I had to do, but I want real friends in my life.
Yeah.
And that really sunk in. I had never had real friends up until that point. Everybody in my life just let me do whatever I wanted to do and didn't really have my best interest at heart. And so it really shifted the way that I look at things. Today, I'm not going to let people die around me, right? I'm not, if you're doing something wrong, if I don't say anything, am I helping you or am I hurting you? And that's the mindset that I have. So I tell on people, and I hold them accountable and I let them know like, hey, you're not going to do that around me. Like, that's not okay. Right. I give them feedback. Today I'm the guy that's jamming people up to say, get your ass on the bench. You got stuff to clean up on. Now I'm that guy.
Right.
And it's crazy. So the first year that I was there, I was that guy, but it got to a point where I was so sick of losing my free time because I was constantly on hours. I probably did like 200-300 hours my first 6 months at the Other Side Academy. And I would be like in the kitchen cleaning dishes on my free time. And I would hear everybody out there like on a Saturday night for family function doing karaoke. And as bad as I didn't want to sing in front of people, I didn't want to be in here cleaning dishes.
By the way, you're a really fantastic rapper now.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. And so that's just what it was. The Raiders games would be on or the Jazz games would be on and I'd be trying to catch a glimpse of the score, even though I'm not supposed to, right? Like, are they winning? And it sucked. You hear everybody cheering. And this is when the Jazz were actually like halfway decent with like Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell stuff. It was like, oh, I wonder if they're going to make the playoffs like those, and it sucked. And so I acted right just so that I could have privileges and liberties and not be stuck in a bathroom cleaning it for 4 hours.
And that works.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. It's crazy how I could go to jail 30 plus times for felonies and misdemeanors and things like that. And that could be timeout. But the moment that I start losing free time in a place, it worked for me to change behavior.
Well, you had good examples and you had a path forward. You had a model. Jail doesn't do that for you. If it's painful enough, sometimes people change,
True.
Pain is I had 2 experiences. I had one when I was in RDAP. So I don't know why they let this girl in. She had a life sentence, violent charge. So she didn't really even get the time off. And they let her and her girlfriend in on my phase. And she'd been on the compound for 20 years. And she ran the compound, right? Yeah. So her girlfriend is in my area. And I come in one morning and she's screaming and yelling. And I was pretty good friends with Val, is her name. She worked in the rec yard and she and I talked. We were fine. But when her girlfriend was screaming and yelling at someone about the fans, I was like, I got to pull her up because I'm a leader in this program. And there's like 12 other girls watching me and I can't pull them up if I don't pull her up. Can't do it. Right. Yeah. So I knew what was coming. So I go up and I just say, it makes me uncomfortable when you're aggressive and you're yelling at other people. I'd ask you to communicate. And, I did my thing. And I see her girlfriend she's out in the audience and she looks like a lion, like she's going to kill me, right? And the counselors don't understand because they don't got you like that. They're going home in a couple hours. Yeah. So after I walked out, she looked at me, she goes, you're dead louder. Like straight up, right? Like that doesn't fly in the program, right? So then I should have pulled her up. But I'm standing there going, I went and sat on my bunk for about 5 minutes. I was just like, and then I thought, I have a choice. So I walked downstairs. I remember being really scared and I said, I'm working this program and I've been asked to be a leader and my integrity is important to me. And you said you were my friend and friends don't threaten each other. Don't ever threaten me again. And she stood there for a minute and then she goes, mad respect, louder. She goes, that took courage. She goes, you can pull anyone up you want in this program, including me. I got your back. That was one of the coolest moments for me and I didn't pull her up. I just went and told her. That's the first time that I just went, because what was I going to do? Walk around in fear? That was a really powerful moment for me. It was also so scary. But after that, I was like, well, what happens, happens. I did my part, and she never did. She was true to her word because I pulled everybody up after that. People go down. She checked out of the program. People go down to the rec yard and say, Louder's tearing us apart. She's like, don't care. Your problem, work it out with her. She cares about the people there. So It was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it established the safety. So safety is important. When you don't feel safe,
really important.
You can't do the process.
No, and there wasn't a lot of safety. But for me, I felt like there were a lot of girls in that program that were in relationships and trying to keep the energy. They were trying to run things. Yeah. And I was like, if I don't, I'm stronger than a lot of the girls that are trying to work the program because they don't dare pull anybody up, right? So I have to do this. I have to do it. I'm the one that's here on the weekends. I'm the one that sees what's happening. So I did it. And I had an experience before I went to prison because I was way hooked on OxyContin. And I I had a guy call me and he's like, I can get these 80s for you at $20 a piece and from Vegas. Yeah. I was like,
that's a score.
And I knew in that moment that I was going to die if I didn't tell. So before I even went to prison, before I was even sentenced, I called my attorney. I think I'd been indicted. It was under federal investigation. I said, I'm a total addict. I'm using Oxy. I need you to call the DEA and tell them that this guy's got $500,000 with OxyContin at $20 a piece. He's like, what are you doing? I go, I'm just telling you that I'm going to die. My husband's looking at me. What are you doing? I was like, I'm going to die. Like there's been those moments where I'm known, like I've got to. So I met with the DEA and I did an undercover deal and I busted him and I bought the whole thing at the Walmart. And so I've never really shared that story, but yeah.
It's so funny you're telling me that because what I was watching when you texted me, I didn't even get to watch the end of it, but Ian Bick.
Yeah.
And
Shout out to Ian Bick. I'm going out to see Matt
Matt Cox
in February. I've been on his show, but I'm going to go out and interview him.
So Matt Cox is telling the story about how he ratted on Ron Wilson.
Yeah.
And now Ron Wilson got a pardon through Trump or whatever. And I'm like, God, this is the craziest story. And I feel like I'm going
to make him come out to Utah and interview you and Dave. I know he's done Dave over the video, but he has in person. Yeah.
Matt Cox has?
Yeah. It's a long time ago I saw it, but he needs to come out here.
And he needs to come and do a Toast to Talk at the Other Side Academy and share his story.
Matt, hear this? You're coming out, man. You're coming out.
Yeah, you're coming out.
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, I like Ian, but I think Matt, the way he tells his stories is so interesting.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit.
No, he doesn't.
Excuse my friend.
He's just so interesting. Mm-hmm. He really is. He and I had a really good interview. Funny. But yeah, he told on everybody and he's unashamed.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, I called everybody out.
Well, he's so true. Like what he was saying is like over 90% of the people that are in there, everybody's got a price. That's how I feel. Everybody's got a price. It doesn't, depending on what you're up against, depending on what you have going on, what's in your life, like everybody has a price.
Right.
I don't give a crap what any of these hardcore gangsters say, right?
Yeah.
You're not a gangster. And he said that like over 90% of the people have paperwork on them. But yet 100% of them run the yard and act like snitches get stitches and all this stuff, right? And it's like, he said in there, he goes, 12 years of extra freedom or loyalty to scumbags.
Right.
And I was like, God, that's so true. Screw those dudes. Like, take your 12 years. He's all, I'm living my best life right now. Yeah. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
Like, and that's literally what I was watching right before I came in.
For sure.
Everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
But just to finish, like, kind of where I was at the Other Side Academy, I think the biggest change for me came when family contact's very limited.
Right.
So I think the hardest part for me in the early stages was I knew my dad was sick. He was getting old. By this time, my stepmom had put him in a home. He's lonely. I'm like, God, I need to go out there. I just need to. And Dave had a serious conversation with me one day. I wanted to leave on a Sunday after leadership. I said, Dave, I don't want to be here anymore. And he caught me at the bottom of the stairwell. He's like, what do you have to offer? You're going to go out and try to save this relationship? You have to realize that ship has sailed. And I was like, dang.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was hard because what am I going to do? I'm just going to go out there and stress him out even worse, right? Like I have nothing to bring to that relationship. It was simply selfish on my part to want to spend the last days with my dad, but I didn't care up until that point with what I was doing.
And what would your dad want more than anything? For you to be the man you are today.
Yeah. And in my third year, anyway, I'll go back to that. But in my third year, my dad ended up passing away, right? Mm-hmm. But right before he did, I got to go and say my goodbyes, and I knew that he was on hospice, and I went and I played some songs for him, and I told some stories, and just the way that I got to show up was unlike anything I've ever been, like unimaginable, right? If I wasn't at the Other Side Academy, I would have used it to be a victim. I would have thrown my life down the drain. I would have said, poor me. And I would have been off to the races and look out, everybody, like get out of the way, right? Instead, I got to be mature. By this time I had, I think if I sum up the Other Side Academy in one word, it's maturation. I matured. I
grew up.
Yeah. I was 30 years old chronologically, but I still was like a 15-year-old infantly, like in my mind, right? And so that emotional intelligence really started to catch up. I really was emotionally regulated and got to go through all of the emotions. And I had people around me that really cared about me. And it was just a really good experience, right? The only thing I wish is that my dad could see what I'm doing now.
Well, he probably can.
Yeah, and that's the hard part is like, what's the afterlife? Right?
I totally know because I've lost enough people to know. Like I lost my brother and I feel so close to him. they freaking know where we are and what we're doing. They're so in it with us. I'm sure he's so proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
I
You're
hope
good
so.
old doodle, you know.
Yeah.
He's got your dad.
Yeah, tell me. He's like, be careful what you pray for, right? Yeah, and you know, so there's times where like I'll be watching football, or my dad loved like Little League World Series. I remember watching like just sports, and so there's times where I'm like, man, I just wish you were here.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
You're pretty much honoring your dad and the life that you live.
Wish I could have made him proud before he passed away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a big regret, but in the moment that I said, like the last thing that I said to him was like, I'm not going to say sorry. I'm not going to apologize, but I'll promise you that I'll be okay. You know, and I've been okay. I'm really okay. I'm like so okay. Right?
Being awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to cry. Damn you, Portia.
You're amazing. It's like my favorite interview of all time. So grateful that you were willing to come out today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know should I keep going or am I good?
You're good.
Am I good?
You're so good. Wow, how much time? Oh, we just hit an hour. We're freaking rolling. I'll have you back if maybe you and Manny come.
That'd be sick.
Okay.
We could do like a tiny desk, like a little show.
Let's do it.
That'd be so sick.
You heard it here. So thank you so much for joining us today on the Living Louder podcast. I'm back, man. We're going to have Clay and Manny in the house. So have a great day.